Hi everyone, welcome to Board of Tanks with stewiejp. I'm Stewie and this is another Pyro replay from the recent Tier 10 Clan Wars campaign, Steel Corridor, the 5th campaign on the Asian server. And if this looks a little bit familiar, the lineup anyway, if the lineup looks a little bit familiar, then you could be forgiven for getting a little bit of deja vu. If memory serves me correctly, and I'm sure that somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but when Skims was in Chabraska, CHG, one of the most popular, most successful clans on the Asian server. The last campaign that they did, from memory, they used to do this for a little bit of fun towards the end of the campaign, pretty much when all the prizes were wrapped up. I know on Chabraska's campaign they really absolutely dominated on the time zones that they fought in, and towards the end they started doing a few games like this where all the tanks that they bought were all from the same nationality. So in this replay, it's all British tanks on Ruinberg, and they're up against rebels. Rebels were pretty active on the campaign, and in general are pretty active on the Clan Wars map. Now we've seen some replays at Tier 10 on various different maps. We're featuring Pyro, and this is going to be two very different games in this video, both on Ruinberg. This first one, of course, against Rebel, and we're taking it from Skell's point of view. See that Rebel have gone predominantly with heavy tanks here. 7 FV215Bs, of course the only heavy tank on the British tech tree. 3 Centurion Action X's, or 3 Caxes as I like to call them. 2 FV215Bs, and FV4005, the new tank destroyer with, I think it's got a very similar gun to the Death Star, the FV215B183. And of course 2 Conqueror gun carriers, which I think they might be the same players we might have seen playing the artillery on Sand River and or Arctic region on other replays that I've put up. Anyway, the score's 0 apiece. Nearly half the enemy team's been spotted. 3 E3s, a Batchat, an IS-7 and 2 E100s. Very heavy lineup, even though the E3s are tank destroyers. They are very solidly armoured. And you can see on the minimap all those other British heavy tanks are moving up towards the centre of the map. They were around here, and then looks like they're moving up for a little bit of a push. Looks like it might be a little bit of a camp off in this battle. If you've got an Object 140 right back on the red line, then you're just pretty good. Pretty safe bet to say that they're camping in this battle. You can see on the mini-map the FV215B down the bottom, in the centre of town, starting to move forward just to probably try and get a little bit more vision. Good cluster of the heavy tanks right in the centre, and with these heavy tanks and these medium tanks with Skell and his heavy, and of course the Death Star being driven by Safi today, will be able to support each other quite nicely, and I guess that's what they're thinking. And shot by Skell doesn't even hit the same postcode as the TW1 OE5 on the enemy side, but you still got to take those shots when they present. Skell moving around now, looking for a different angle on the TW1 OE5 as well as the Object 140. And it looks like those Centurion Action X's are trying to get a few snipey shots into the camping heavy tanks and the Object 140 back at the Rebel base. The Rebel base. A little bit of a wait and see scenario at the moment. They're probably all talking on TeamSpeak and working out what they're going to do. And if I know Skims, I'm sure that he's got a solution for any conundrum that the Rebel team might throw up towards him. You can see a number of tanks on the enemy side have sort of, you wouldn't say they've pushed down that road, but they've moved down that road, and they're obviously being entertained by this heavy tank back here as well as the Death Star. And I guess what the Pyro guys are hoping for is for some of these tanks to push down towards this heavy tank in the centre of town, and then this whole group can probably converge on this base. Now Skull's been spotted here, and he's been hit by that Object 140, who obviously hasn't moved yet. Takes a bit of damage from the E100, and it's time to show what this British gun can do. Skims picks up the first kill of the game, getting rid of the pesky E5, but that Object 140 hasn't been killed, and that Object 140 is more likely than not the tank that's keeping the Pyro lads spotted. Takes a shot at the E5, doesn't manage to land it. And looking at the minimap, as this little engagement starts, looking at the minimap, it looks like that these heavy tanks in the middle of the town, looks like they're relocating for a little bit of a better point of view on the enemy cap circle. Still haven't spotted all the enemy tanks, the Pyro lads. Only 10 so far, so there's still 5 tanks unaccounted for. And I'm guessing that's why Pyro are being a little bit conservative in this battle. A good presence in the town with those heavy tanks. 6 heavy tanks in that town, and they're more than likely keeping these E3s on their toes, as well as probably that E100 that you can see now. Now they're looking at the IS-7. Of course, the IS-7's pretty heavily armoured Russian heavy tank, so you really need to aim properly to put some damage into it. Of course, E100 and IS-4 just been lit as well. And of course, they're all tanks that have got a good amount of health, so they really want to get rid of them. Party takes the Batchat out. Always important to get rid of a tank with so much vision like the Batchat has. Skull blind shots towards where those heavies were last seen. And a nice shot straight into the side of the turret of the E5. That'll penetrate every day. And now the call's obviously been made. Move in. Looking at all these tanks in the city. These tanks in the city on the enemy side are outnumbering these other tanks, so the tanks that are out wide are going to be moving straight into the campers, if you like, on the enemy base. 4-2 is the score, but whether or not that skirmish in the middle of the map goes Rebels' way or not is subject to point of view. Skull takes the Object 140 down to a one shot. Safi does the honours, gets rid of him with the score on 6-3. Oh, I thought that would have been a kill shot, but doesn't quite get the killing shot on the E100. 6-3 is the score. And looking at the tanks, the Pyro guys still definitely outnumbered in the city. So even though they're winning 7-3, they need to be aware of that. Skull looking for a shot on the AMX 50B, but Skims takes him out with his big British tank destroyer gun. Gets a shot into the side of the E100. 9-4 is the score. You can see Skull's already picked up nearly 3,000 hit points of damage, and that last shot will give him a little bit more than 3,000. And his second kill. And at this stage, it's just a case of cleaning them all up with the score at 13-4. The last 2 enemy E100s. Skull not being able to find his mark there. He is aiming for the uppermost point of the turret there of the German heavy tank, but not quite lucky enough to land a shot on a couple of those occasions, and that's the risk you're taking. Just trying to go for those sneaky little shots onto the weak points. RMK 74 takes the last kill of the game, and at 15-4, it's not a bad result at all. As we have a look at the post-game battle results, it was a comprehensive win against Rebel. Of course, Rebel, a very active clan in Clan Wars, and well done for them for turning up, putting on a show against the Pyro lads. But when you look at the second page of the post-game battle result, everyone had a ripper of a game. Plenty of scores, over 3,000 and 4,000 there, and that was a good spread of damage by the Pyro lads, as usual, on Ruinberg against Rebels. And as we look towards the second game of this double shot of Tier 10 action, it is taking a while to get into that. When I swap screens around, it does take a little while, and that's, I think, because it's been upgraded, the software I use to do these games. Anyway, this game, without giving too much away, again, don't blink because you'll miss it. This is not a campy game whatsoever. This is just like the last game on Ruinberg, where it was all British tanks. This is all German tanks. Looking at the lineup from the PYRO lads: 6 E100s, 6 Mouses, an E50 and 2 Grills. No artillery in this battle. And the PYRO lads are not wasting any time. They are going straight down the guts in this lineup. This is taken from Skim's point of view. Of course, Skim sent me some replays, as well as Skell, as well as some other people from other clans, which I'll be featuring later on in the channel. And this game, it's against Curry, who are a relatively new clan, or new to the global map anyway. They might have been around for a while, but I think this campaign's the first time I've seen Curry. Now, Skell does take a pretty sizable hit, 700 odd damage. That's probably a big tank destroyer, maybe a German tank destroyer, or even a Death Star. An E100's been spotted. As you look at the minimap, all the E100s, all the Mouses have gone this way with Skims, and all the E100s have gone straight through the town with the 2 Grills and the E50M. Keep one eye on the minimap as you watch this engagement. Now that E100 gets taken out by the Mouse, one of the Mouses that's with Skims. Skims zooming out for a little bit of a better point of view. Good chance Skims is calling this game. He generally does, from what I'm told. From what I've told, he's one of the better callers on the Asian server. 1-0 is the score. And have a look at all those E100s. They've gone to absolutely cover the cap. There's an IS-7 back there, who looks like he's a little bit nervous. Probably hesitant to push into those E100s, because one shot each would be all it would take to get rid of them. But the cap is down to 8 seconds. They managed to get a reset, the Curry lads. And it looks like, looking at the minimap, looks like most of the Curry guys have gone straight down the outside of the map, pushing the wide field part of the map, I guess you'd call it. And again, the cap gets reset. The score is 2 apiece, and the big, slow, lumbering Mouse is just plodding along. Look at all those Mouses. They must weigh 1 million tonne. All those 5 or 6 Mouses are all plottering along, and in the end, PYRO win by capping. That's what I meant by a pretty quick game. Germany versus Curry. That's how Skims put it up onto the World of Tanks Replays website, and it was all the German tanks versus Curry. And of course, the damage doesn't really matter in this game, because they won by capping with just going into the game. Just 3 minutes is all it took to outcap Curry on Ruinberg. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the replays, Skell and Skims. Hopefully I'll get a little bit better soon. I get a little bit more excited in some of these replays. But that was not a bad game at all. Not a bad couple of games featuring PYRO against Rebel and Curry on Ruinberg. One was a good way to break the camp, and the other way was a good way to cap them out with E100s with the big German heavy tanks. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care, and see you all next time.